What would you do if you had the power to reclaim everything that was taken from you? Why is my sister-in-law receiving $1,300 every month, and why has nobody mentioned it? I had to know. But when I finally asked, everything changed. That question lingered in my mind for weeks. I had always considered myself close to my family, so when I noticed something odd about Mia's financial situation, I couldn't ignore it. On the surface, Mia had everything she could want: a beautiful house, designer clothes, and a lifestyle that seemed untouchable. Yet, she didn't work. She didn't have a steady job, but there she was, receiving $1,300 every month like clockwork. I had never questioned it before. After all, it wasn't my business, right? But something about it felt off. Was she hiding something? Was there a secret no one was talking about? My curiosity gnawed at me. The more I tried to let it go, the more it ate at me. I finally decided to confront her. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but I knew this conversation would change everything. What I didn't expect was the consequences that followed. When I asked the question, the tension in the room grew so thick that I immediately regretted it. But now, there was no turning back. Let me give you a little background about my family. I'm fairly close with my brother-in-law, Tom. We've always gotten along, sharing laughs and occasional jokes. However, things with Mia have always been a bit more complicated. She's a bit mysterious and not the easiest person to read. While I've always respected her, there's an air of something hidden about her that I couldn't ignore. Tom and Mia have been married for 5 years. They don't have children yet, and their relationship has always been, well, functional. Tom works as a senior manager at a tech company, earning a comfortable salary. Despite that, Mia doesn't seem to have a regular job. She used to work in marketing but left her position after a few years. Yet she lives as if nothing has changed. She spends money like it's nothing: shopping sprees, dinners at expensive restaurants, and vacations at luxury resorts. I've never once seen her work, nor has she ever mentioned anything about a new project or job. There's a subtle tension when we're all together. Tom and Mia often keep to themselves, and I wonder if there are things I don't know. While Tom is kind and easygoing, Mia has always been a bit more reserved, and I can't help but feel like there's something she's not telling us. It's that mystery that continues to make me uneasy, especially when I notice the $1,300 monthly payment. It wasn't until I spent more time with Mia that I began noticing the little things, the luxury items that seemed to appear out of nowhere, her constant ability to attend social events without ever mentioning work, and most suspiciously, her monthly check. I started paying attention to her routine. She seemed to live in a world of leisure, always shopping, going out with friends, or attending yoga classes. But whenever I asked her about work or what she was up to, she always gave vague answers, something about projects or hobbies, but no specifics. Her social media profiles were similarly vague, filled with scenic vacation photos and pictures of expensive lunches. She never posted anything about a career or job, which I found odd for someone living such a lavish life. I couldn't shake the thought that something was off. I tried to ignore it, convincing myself that maybe I was just overthinking it. After all, Mia was married to Tom, and he seemed fine with the way things were. Maybe it wasn't my place to question it. But then, I noticed a pattern. Every month, like clockwork, a large deposit of $1,300 would appear in her bank account. I wasn't snooping. I just happened to be in the same room once when she checked her phone. She seemed almost too comfortable with it. At that moment, I realized I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I had to ask her. But would that destroy everything? What if I uncovered something I wasn't ready to know? The more I thought about it, the harder it became to ignore. It was a question that would change everything, and part of me was terrified of what I'd find out. The internal battle raged. Should I confront her, or should I let it go and keep my distance? After another strange encounter with Mia, I could no longer hold back my curiosity. She had come over for dinner, and as usual, she had that look of someone who didn't have a care in the world. But something felt different tonight. She seemed almost too carefree, like there was something she was hiding. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know the truth. The setting was a simple, quiet evening. Everyone else was gathered around the dinner table, but Mia and I were in the living room, talking casually. I decided to broach the subject. Hey Mia, I've been wondering, what's the deal with that $1,300 you get every month? It's been on my mind for a while, and I feel like I should ask. Her face immediately tightened. She froze for a second, as if trying to gauge whether I was serious or not. The smile she'd been wearing faded into a tight, uncomfortable expression. What are you talking about? She replied, her tone too defensive. It's none of your business. The dismissive response hit me harder than I expected, but I couldn't back down. I just want to understand. That's all. It's been bugging me, Mia. You don't work, but you still get this money every month. What's going on? She crossed her arms, her face turning a shade of red. Why do you care so much about something that doesn't affect you? Maybe I don't need to explain myself to you. Get over it. My heart raced. There was no answer, just coldness, dismissiveness, and a shift in the air. Mia was avoiding the question, like she'd done with everything else. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just hiding something. There was something bigger at play here, something she was scared of revealing. The question hung heavy between us, and I realized that I had just unlocked something far deeper than I had anticipated. After the conversation, things between Mia and me became strained. She avoided me at every opportunity, and I could feel the coldness in the air when we were around each other. It was as if the entire evening had shattered something between us. I felt confused, betrayed, and most of all, uncertain of what to do next. In the days following the confrontation, Mia became even more distant. She would avoid eye contact, and whenever I tried to make small talk, she'd shut me down quickly with short, sharp answers. It was clear she didn't want to engage, and that only added to my growing discomfort. Tom, on the other hand, noticed the tension between Mia and me. He seemed upset, but didn't know what had caused it. I tried to explain, but every time I brought it up, he brushed it off, claiming it was nothing. I could see the confusion in his eyes, but he didn't press Mia about it. She was his wife, and he didn't want to stir things up. However, I could sense that something was off, and the unease within the family grew with each passing day. I couldn't help but feel like I had just opened a door to something that no one was ready to confront. The way Mia was acting only made me more suspicious, and the more I thought about it, the less sure I was of how to move forward. I had asked the question, but now I wasn't sure if I was prepared for the consequences of knowing the answer. The tension lingered in the house, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. I couldn't let it go. The mystery of the $1,300 kept me up at night, and I knew I had to get to the bottom of it. I started asking around subtly, trying to piece things together without raising too many suspicions. After a week of feeling like I was walking on eggshells, I finally had a conversation with Tom. Tom, I said one afternoon when Mia was out, I need to talk to you. What's going on with Mia and that $1,300? Why does she get that money every month? It's been bothering me, and I can't just pretend I don't know anymore. Tom's face fell. He hesitated for a moment, then lowered his voice, almost as if he was afraid someone might overhear. I didn't want to tell you this, but Mia has been receiving that money from a trust fund. It's from her previous marriage. The revelation hit me like a ton of bricks. I had no idea Mia had been married before, and even less that there was a trust fund involved. Tom seemed upset that I'd found out. But there was a sense of relief in his eyes, too, like he'd finally unloaded a burden he'd been carrying. She never told me everything about her previous marriage, Tom continued. I always thought it was over and done with. But the truth is, Mia hasn't been completely honest with me either. She keeps a lot of things from me, and I don't know what to think anymore. I was frustrated. Here I had been, trying to piece everything together, and Mia had kept such a huge secret from everyone, especially Tom. What else was she hiding? The lies were adding up, and I felt like I had just scratched the surface of something far bigger and darker. I couldn't stand the confusion and lies any longer. But even as I uncovered more of the truth, I realized it wasn't just Mia's secrecy that was troubling. It was the impact it was having on everyone, including me. What kind of person hides something like this from their closest family? I wasn't sure if I would ever get the full story, but I knew one thing: things would never be the same again. With the truth weighing heavily on my mind, I knew it was time for another confrontation. I couldn't let Mia's secrets go unchallenged. This time, I wasn't walking in blind. Armed with the knowledge of her trust fund and her previous marriage, I was determined to finally get some answers. One evening, I caught Mia alone in the kitchen. "Mia," I said, my voice firm but not unkind. "I know about the $1,300 in your trust fund. Why didn't you tell Tom or anyone else about it?" Her face drained of color, her eyes widening in shock. "How do you know about that?" she demanded, her voice rising. But I could see the anger bubbling beneath her shock. "This is none of your business. You have no right to ask me about my past." I stood my ground. "It is my business when it affects all of us. Why did you keep it a secret? Why didn't you tell Tom?" Mia's expression twisted, a mix of guilt and defensiveness. "I didn't want anyone judging me. I didn't want Tom to think I was hiding something. I just didn't know how to bring it up." The tension between us was palpable, both of us feeling cornered in different ways. Mia felt trapped by her own lies, and I felt betrayed by the woman I had considered a part of my family. The confrontation shattered whatever was left of our relationship. Trust had been broken, and no amount of explanations could fix that. The aftermath of our confrontation was inevitable. Mia avoided me completely after that night. She would disappear whenever I was around, and when we did have to interact, the silence between us was deafening. The once cordial family atmosphere had shifted into something colder, more distant. Tom, caught in the middle, didn't know how to handle the situation. He tried to mediate, but I could see the strain in his face. He was upset with Mia, but didn't want to create more tension by confronting her directly. I could tell he was disappointed in both of us, but the cracks in their marriage were already showing. What Mia had kept from him for so long had put him in an impossible position. As days turned into weeks, the emotional distance between everyone grew. Old family issues resurfaced, things that had been buried and ignored for years. The house, once filled with warmth and laughter, felt like a battleground. I couldn't help but feel like I had done the right thing in seeking the truth, but the cost was higher than I had imagined. I was left questioning if confronting Mia had been worth losing the fragile harmony that had once existed in our family. As I sat alone, reflecting on everything that had unfolded, I realized just how much this situation had changed me. The curiosity that had driven me to ask tough questions had ultimately led to pain and confusion. I had wanted answers, but at what cost? The fallout had left deep scars in my relationships, and I couldn't help but wonder if ignorance might have been the better choice. The truth had shattered the illusion of perfection within the family. Mia's secrecy, Tom's disappointment, and my own sense of betrayal had created a rift that couldn't easily be repaired. I had been naive to think I could ask such a personal question without consequences. The price of honesty was steeper than I had ever anticipated. In the end, I made a decision. I would distance myself from the drama. Sometimes, knowing the truth only makes things harder. I couldn't keep navigating through the broken pieces of my family's secrets. I had to step away, even if it meant losing the closeness I once had with Mia and Tom. Did I make the right choice by asking the question? It felt like the answer was still elusive. But I knew one thing. The consequences would haunt me for a long time. And perhaps, in some ways, the silence might have been the better path. But now, it was too late to turn back.